Starborn Human Warriors Awakened. Part 1. The emergency sirens echoed through the Celestial Nexus, the massive station that served as the heart of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 200 species crowded into the central chamber, their faces showing every shade of fear that existed in the known universe. On the enormous display screen, the same image repeated over and over, entire star systems going dark, consumed by something that moved through space like a living shadow. Council Director, a towering creature with 6 arms and skin like polished stone, stood at the center podium. His voice boomed through the chamber. The Void Swarm has returned. Our military analysts estimate we have 6 cycles before total extinction. Every warrior species we've sent against them has been destroyed. The legions lasted 3 hours. The battle fleets managed 4. Nothing stops them. Silence fell over the chamber. The Void Swarm was supposed to be a myth, a story told to young soldiers to make them train harder. 10,000 years ago, according to legend, something had invaded from beyond normal space. It had nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy before mysteriously vanishing. Most species thought the stories were exaggerated. Now they knew better. An elderly historian named raised one of her many delicate hands. She was a preservationist, a species that lived for centuries and dedicated their lives to maintaining the galaxy's oldest records. Director, I may have found something in the Forbidden Archives. Every head turned toward her. The Forbidden Archives contained data from the First Galactic Age, information so old that most of it was considered corrupted or unreliable. No one consulted them anymore. Speak, commanded. Fingers danced over her personal display, and new images appeared on the central screen. Ancient text in a dozen dead languages scrolled past, along with pictures of warriors in strange armor. These records speak of the last time the Void Swarm appeared. They describe a race called the Starborn, warriors who fought the swarm to a standstill. According to these files, the Starborn didn't die out after the war. They went into stasis, hidden in temples across the galaxy, waiting to be awakened if the threat ever returned. And where are these Starborn now? Demanded. What species were they? His next words made the entire chamber erupt in chaos. They were human. Laughter, disbelief, outrage. Humans were the galaxy's administrators and diplomats. They were pleasant enough, good at learning languages and negotiating trade deals, but warriors. Humans were small, fragile, and utterly unremarkable in combat. The idea that they had once been the galaxy's greatest soldiers was absurd. The data must be corrupted, declared General, commander of the Council's military forces. His species, stood 3 meters tall and could tear through steel with their bare hands. I've trained with humans. They're weak. The genetic markers match, insisted. Modern humans are descendants of the Starborn who chose not to enter stasis. Their genes are still there, just dormant. Every test I've run confirms it. Held up all 6 hands for silence. Do these records say where these temples are located? The first one is on a world called Cradle's End, a dead planet in the outer rim. The temple entrance requires human DNA to open. The director's stone-like face showed something that might have been hope. We're out of options. General, assemble an expedition team. Find a human volunteer and locate this temple. If the data is wrong, we've lost nothing. If it's right. He didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew what he meant. If it was right, humanity might be the only thing standing between the galaxy and extinction. Captain stood in the airlock of the expedition ship, looking out at the desolate planet below. He was 32 years old, unremarkable by human standards, with brown hair and the kind of face that disappeared in crowds. He'd spent his career as a diplomatic, translating documents and smoothing over cultural misunderstandings. Now he was apparently the key to awakening ancient super-soldiers. Still can't believe this, he muttered. Approached him, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence. You don't believe the records. I believe you believe them, said carefully. But I've seen what the galaxy thinks of humans. We're the people you call when you need someone to organize a conference, not fight a war. Perhaps that's because you forgot what you were, said softly. Come, we're approaching the landing site. The temple rose from the planet's dead surface like a mountain of black glass. It was massive, easily the size of a small city, with walls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing faintly with blue fire. General led the ground team, 20 of his best soldiers surrounding the humans and scientists. His hand never left his plasma rifle. If this is a trap, human, you'll be the first to die. Comforting, replied. He approached the enormous doors at the temple's entrance. Up close, he could see that the symbols were actually letters in an ancient form of Earth's languages, mixed together in ways that hurt his eyes to read. I can almost understand this. It's like remembering a dream. Place your hand on the door, instructed. Pressed his palm against the cold surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the symbols erupted with light. Blue fire raced across the entire temple, following channels carved into the black glass. The ground shook. The massive doors began to open, revealing darkness beyond. Stay close, ordered. His soldiers formed up around the group as they entered. The interior of the temple was vast. Emergency lights flickered to life as they walked, revealing a chamber that stretched away into the distance. And everywhere, standing in neat rows like soldiers on parade, were stasis pods. Thousands of them, tens of thousands. Each one contained a human figure in armor that seemed to be made of liquid metal and starlight. Stopped in front of the nearest pod. The man inside was huge, at least 7 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. Even unconscious, even after 10,000 years, the warrior radiated something that made one to step back. Power, purpose, danger. By the ancestors, whispered, even he sounded impressed. These are soldiers. Was already at a control panel, her fingers working frantically. The system is still active. We can wake them, but we should start with just one. Their commander, according to the hierarchy codes. His name is... She entered a sequence, and one pod at the far end of the chamber began to glow. The liquid metal armor on the figure inside started to pulse with light. Steam hissed from the pod's seals as it opened. The man inside opened his eyes. They glowed with an inner fire like stars burning in his skull. He took a deep breath, the first in 10, and sat up. His movements were smooth and controlled, showing no sign of stiffness or confusion. When he spoke, his voice was deep and clear. Has it returned? Stepped forward. Yes, the void swarm has come back. We need. Then we have work to do. The warrior called stood up. He was even larger than had thought, and the armor moved with him like a second skin. He looked around the chamber, taking in the rows of sleeping soldiers, then his gaze settled on. Those burning eyes studied him for a long moment. You're human. Modern era. Yes, sir, Captain. His expression hardened. Captain of what? Where are your weapons, your armor? I'm a diplomatic officer. I translate documents in. Stop, held up one hand. He looked at the other expedition members, seeing their various weapons and armor. Then he looked back at, what happened to humanity? Where are our warriors? We're not warriors, said quietly. We haven't been for thousands of years. We handle negotiations, administration, cultural exchange. Other species handle security. For a moment just stared at him. Then he threw back his head and laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. They made you forget. 10,000 years of peace, and they made you forget everything. He walked past, his boots echoing on the temple floor. Historian, show me the current state of the war. Displayed tactical data on a portable screen. Studied it in silence, his glowing eyes tracking back and forth. You're losing badly. The swarm has adapted to modern weapons. Your conventional forces are useless. That's why we awakened you. His voice came through the comm system. Can your warriors fight them? "We're the only ones who can," said. "But we'll need time. Time to wake the others. Time to recover our equipment from the caches. Time to train your people in methods they've forgotten." He turned back to, "And time to teach your people what they really are." "What do you mean?" asked. Smile was grim. "You think you're diplomats, administrators, weak, but I can see it in you burning under the surface. Every human carries the warrior gene. It's just sleeping. With the right training, the right catalyst, any human can become what we are. You were never meant to forget, Captain. You were meant to have peace. But peace and weakness are not the same thing." He walked to the temple entrance and looked up at the stars. In the distance, a red glow marked where the void swarm was consuming another system. "Wake the 1st Battalion. 300 soldiers to start. We move within the day." "Move where?" General demanded. His eyes blazed brighter. "To war. Where else would warriors go?" Felt something stir in his chest as he watched the ancient soldier. It felt like recognition, like coming home after a long journey, like waking up from a dream. He didn't understand it yet, but part of him, some deep part that had been sleeping for generations, knew exactly what meant. The Starborn were awakening, and somehow knew so was he. Part 2. The training ground was a nightmare. Captain lay flat on his back, gasping for air, staring up at the sky. Every muscle in his body screamed. He'd been training with Commander for 6 hours straight, and he was fairly certain he was dying. Around him, 50 other modern humans were in similar states of exhaustion. Some were crying. One was throwing up in the corner. "Get up!" His voice was flat and merciless. The ancient warrior stood over without a scratch on him, not even breathing hard. In real combat, the void doesn't wait for you to catch your breath. "I can't," gasped. "I literally cannot move." Reached down and hauled him to his feet with one hand. "Yes, you can. Your body thinks it's at its limit, but that's a lie your comfortable life taught you. Your genes know better. Push past the lie." They were on a moon orbiting a gas giant, far from the core worlds. The Council had given this place to train volunteers from modern humanity. 300 awakened Starborn warriors were already preparing for combat, recovering ancient weapons from hidden caches and running battle simulations, but had insisted on taking time to train recruits from the current generation. "You have potential," had told on the first day. "You've commanded others, you think tactically. You have the spark, but you're weak, soft. We need to burn that away." Burn was the right word. Felt like he'd been thrown into a furnace. The training wasn't just physical. Put them through meditation exercises that felt more like torture. He made them sit perfectly still for hours, focusing on their breathing, searching for something inside themselves that insisted was there. "The warrior gene," he called it. "The thing that made us what we were. It's sleeping in you. We need to wake it up." On the 3rd week, during one of these meditation sessions, something changed. Was sitting cross-legged on the ground, eyes closed, trying to focus through the pain in his legs. Was walking among the recruits, speaking in a low voice. "Feel your heartbeat, feel your blood moving deeper. There's something else in there, something old, something that remembers." And suddenly did feel it, like a door opening in his mind. Images flooded through him, but they weren't his memories. He saw humans in armor-likes fighting against creatures made of living darkness. He saw massive battles across alien worlds. He saw a young woman, fierce and proud, leading a charge against impossible odds. She looked like Sister. No, she looked like himself. Ancestral memory. The genes remembering. His eyes snapped open. Was standing right in front of him, those glowing eyes studying him. "You felt it." "What was that?" His voice shook. "Your heritage, your birthright, the thing they took from you without asking." Offered his hand and pulled to his feet. Again, deeper this time. Weil and the other volunteers trained, the 1st Battalion of awakened Starborn were proving themselves in small engagements. The Void Swarm had attacked mining colonies, research stations, and outlying settlements. The Council sent the ancient warriors to respond. The results were remarkable. General watched the battle recordings with something like religious awe. The Starborn moved through the void creatures like dancers, their ancient weapons cutting through entities that were immune to plasma fire and kinetic weapons. They fought with a savagery that shocked even the galaxy's most aggressive species. But it wasn't mindless violence. Every move was calculated. Every strike had purpose. "How are they doing this?" demanded. "Our weapons just pass through the void creatures." Pointed to the unique energy signature of the Starborn weapons. "Their technology is based on principles we've forgotten. It doesn't just harm matter or energy. It affects reality itself. The void creatures exist partially outside our dimension. These weapons pull them fully into our space, making them vulnerable. Can we replicate the technology?" "We're trying, but it took humanity thousands of years to develop originally. We don't have that kind of time." Watched as Commander in the center of the battle dispatched a void creature the size of a small ship with a single strike from his blade. "Then we need more of them. How many can we wake?" "As many as we find. We've located 17 more temples so far. Each contains thousands of warriors. But Commander insists we need to train modern humans as well. He says the ancient warriors alone won't be enough." "The modern humans are useless," said dismissively. Multiple eyes focused on the general. That's what everyone said about the ancient humans, until they weren't. On the training, Moon was finally making progress. The meditation sessions were getting easier. He could feel that presence inside himself growing stronger, like a fire being fed with kindling. The physical training, while still brutal, no longer left him completely destroyed. His body was changing, becoming harder faster. His instructors said he was pushing past normal human limits. "That's because there is no normal human limit," explained one evening. They sat together watching the sunset, a rare moment of peace. "The weak humans you think you are, that's just what you became without enemies, without struggle. The genetic potential was always there. Your ancestors who didn't go into stasis, they had peaceful lives. Their children had peaceful lives. Generation after generation, the warrior traits got buried deeper, but buried isn't the same as gone." "Is that what you're doing?" asked, "digging them back up?" "I'm reminding you what you are. The genes know, your body knows, you just have to listen." Stood up. "Tomorrow you'll spar with one of my warriors, fully awakened one. Don't hold back. If you do, you'll be hurt worse." Barely slept that night. Fighting an ancient super soldier seemed like suicide. But when morning came, he found himself in the training ring facing a woman named Sira. She was tall and lean, with the same glowing eyes as. She moved like liquid death. "Begin," called. Sira came at him fast, barely got his guard up before she struck. The impact sent him staggering. She didn't let up, pressing the attack with a speed that seemed impossible. Training took over. He blocked, dodged, countered when he could. He was losing badly, but he wasn't giving up. "Faster," shouted. "Stop thinking, feel." Sira swept his legs and went down hard. She was on him instantly, her blade at his throat. In that moment, looking up at certain defeat, something inside snapped, or maybe it woke up. The fire he'd been feeding during meditation suddenly blazed. Time seemed to slow down. He could see Sira's next move before she made it. His body moved on instinct, faster than he'd ever moved before. He twisted away, rolled, came up with his own blade ready. Sira's eyes widened. There it is. They clashed again, but this time kept up. He was still outmatched, still learning, but he was fighting like he'd been born to it. Because he had been. Every cell in his body suddenly remembered what his species was supposed to be. The match ended with Sira victorious, but barely. Was smiling when collapsed afterward. "You felt it, the awakening, your genes activating. Welcome back, warrior." His hands were shaking. "What happened to me?" "You became what you were always meant to be, but this is just the start. It'll take weeks for the change to complete, months to master it. We don't have that kind of time." Helped him up. "The Void is attacking a major colony, 500,000 people. The Council is sending their fleet, but they'll lose. I'm taking 300 of my warriors. You're coming with me. You and the 50 recruits who started awakening." "We're not ready," protested. "You'll never be ready until you face real combat. War is the crucible. You either forge yourself into a weapon or you break. It's time to find out which you are." 2 days later stood on the bridge of an ancient warship pulled from a hidden cache. It was smaller than modern vessels but somehow felt more dangerous. Everything about it was designed for one purpose: killing. Around him, 50 modern humans in training armor tried not to look terrified. They were all early in their awakening, their eyes just starting to show that characteristic glow. Through the four was burning. The Council fleet was being torn apart by void creatures the size of moons. Could see ships exploding in silence, their crews dying by the thousands. "All warriors to assault craft's voice came through the comm. "We hit them fast and hard. Modern humans, stay with your squad leaders. Watch how we fight, learn, and don't die in the first 5 minutes." Checked his weapon one last time. It was a blade made of energy, designed to cut through reality itself. He had no idea how to use it properly. He was probably going to die. But as the assault craft launched toward the battle, as he felt his heart pounding and his newly awakened genes singing in his blood, realized something. He wasn't afraid. Or rather, he was afraid, but underneath that fear was something stronger. Anticipation. Purpose. The feeling of finally doing what he was meant to do. The starborn warriors hit the void swarm like a hammer. His craft landed on the surface of a massive void creature, and suddenly he was running through corridors of living darkness, his blade cutting through enemies that shouldn't exist. His squad leader, a starborn named, moved ahead of them with impossible grace, showing them where to strike, how to move. There, pointed at a glowing core deep in the creature's body. The heart, cut it and the whole thing dies. They fought their way deeper, lost himself in the battle. His training took over. His awakening genes guided his movements. When a void tendril came at him, he cut it without thinking. When a gap opened in their formation, he filled it. He was doing it. He was actually fighting. Then his squad got separated from the main force. They were surrounded. 20 humans facing 100 void creatures in a space that was too tight for proper maneuvering. Was down, wounded. The other starborn were too far away to help. Looked at his 9 remaining squad members. All of them were modern humans. All of them were barely awakened. All of them were about to die. "Form up," heard himself say. His voice was calm, steady. "Circle formation, cover each other's backs. We hold until reinforcements arrive." "We'll be dead in 60 seconds, one of the others said. "Then we better make them count," raised his blade. The fire inside him blazed higher than ever before. His eyes, he knew, were glowing bright now, full awakening. "We're human, we're starborn, and we don't run." The void creatures attacked. And something miraculous happened. Squad followed his lead, fighting with a coordination they'd never shown in training. They were awakening too, all of them, the stress and danger pushing their genes past the threshold. Their eyes glowed. Their movements became faster, sharper. They weren't at the level of the ancient warriors yet, but they were no longer helpless diplomats either. They held for 60 seconds, then 90, then 2 minutes. When and his warriors finally cut through to them, all 10 of squad were still alive, bloodied, exhausted, but alive. Looked at them with something like pride. "Well done, the colony is saved, the void is retreating." Collapsed against a wall. Around him, his squad did the same. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. Modern humans had fought the void swarm and survived. Later on the trip back, found in the medical bay getting his wounds treated, the ancient warrior sat down beside him. "I watched the recording of your fight. All 10 of you awakened in the middle of combat, fully awakened. Do you know how rare that is?" "No, sir." In the old days, only 1 in 100 recruits managed full awakening in their first real battle. Your squad, 10 out of 10. His glowing eyes studied. "The gene is stronger than I hoped. Your people didn't lose it. It just went dormant. We can bring it back." How many humans would volunteer, asked, if they knew what it meant? All of them, said simply. Once word spreads that the weak humans of the modern age can become what we are, that they can fight, can protect, can be more, every human with courage will volunteer, and even the ones without courage will find it, because fear is easier to face when you have the strength to back up your will. He stood up. Rest, Captain, you've earned it, but when you're healed, you'll have a choice to make. You can go back to being a diplomat, or you can help me train the next generation of starborn warriors. Help me remind humanity what it is. Didn't need to think about it. He'd felt what it was like to be truly alive, to fight for something that mattered, to be what his genes said he could be. When do we start? Smiled, as soon as you can stand. We have a galaxy to save, and now I think we might actually have a chance. Part 3. 6 months after the battle at 4, the galaxy had transformed. General stood in the observation deck of the Celestial Nexus, watching human warships move in formation below. A year ago, humanity had possessed no military vessels. Now they had hundreds, pulled from ancient caches or built new using recovered technology. But the ships weren't what amazed him. It was the crews. "Status report," he commanded. Appeared beside him, her multiple eyes tracking data on floating displays. "We've located 43 starborn temples across the galaxy. We've awakened 17,000 ancient warriors. But that's not the significant number. Over 2 million modern humans have volunteered for awakening training. 1 million have completed basic protocols. 300,000 are fully awakened and combat-ready. In 6 months, couldn't believe it, how? The gene is stronger than anyone predicted. Once the first volunteers succeeded, others followed. And Commander's training methods, while brutal, are remarkably effective. Humans are remembering what they are. The galaxy is watching humanity transform before their eyes." Looked at his own clawed hands. His species was bred for war. They were massive, strong, aggressive. Yet watching the humans train, he'd felt something he never expected to feel: inadequacy. They're going to surpass us, aren't they? Given enough time, humanity will become the dominant military power in the galaxy. They already were, said quietly. 10,000 years ago, we just forgot. On the training moon, which had expanded into a massive military academy, Captain, now General, addressed a class of new recruits. 5,000 humans sat in the amphitheater, listening to his words. His eyes glowed with the inner fire of full awakening. His presence radiated authority. 6 months ago, I was a translator, said. I'd never fired a weapon in anger, never faced real danger. I thought I was weak. The galaxy thought we were all weak. But weakness was never what we were. It was just what we'd become without a reason to be strong. He activated a hologram showing battle footage. Starborn warriors, both ancient and modern, fighting the void swarm. The awakening isn't magic, it's genetics. It's your body remembering what evolution spent millions of years perfecting. Humans survived ice ages, megafauna, plagues, and wars. We conquered our own world before we reached the stars. That survivor, that warrior, that's in your genes. We're here to help you remember. After the lecture, met with his command staff. They were a mix of ancient starborn and newly awakened modern humans, sat at the head of the table studying tactical displays. The void is adapting, said without preamble. They've figured out that we're the threat. They're targeting human colonies specifically now, trying to destroy us before we become strong enough to stop them. How many colonies are at risk? Asked Commander Sira, the ancient warrior who'd first sparred with. All of them in the outer rim. The void is pushing hard. They'll hit at least 5 worlds simultaneously within the next week. Looked around the table. We can't be everywhere. We need to prioritize. No's voice was flat. We defend them all. Raised an eyebrow. We don't have the forces. Then we get them. We have 300,000 awakened warriors now. We pull them from training and throw them into combat. It's a risk, but leaving colonies defenseless is a greater one. Most of them have only basic training, Sierra protested. They'll die. They'll die if the void conquers the galaxy anyway, countered. At least this way they'll die fighting, and some of them, maybe most of them, will survive. Combat awakens something that training can't. You know that, Commander. You were there at 4. Studied for a long moment. Then he smiled. You're thinking like a starborn now, aggressive, willing to gamble. Fine, we defend all 5 colonies, but you'll command the operation, General. Your plan, your responsibility. Accepted with a nod. He knew what was doing, testing him, pushing him, seeing if a modern human could truly lay on the same level as the ancients. We'll need to coordinate with the Council fleet. They're yours, his voice came through the comm. He'd been listening to the entire meeting. Every ship, every soldier from other species. Humanity has earned the right to lead this fight. The 5 battles happened simultaneously across the outer rim. Commanded from the Central Fleet, coordinating between the different battlefields. His ships jumped from system to system, providing support where it was needed most. But he divided his forces carefully. Each colony had a mix of ancient starborn warriors and newly awakened modern humans. The ancients would provide expertise and power. The modern forces would provide numbers and, hopefully, determination. The battle at New Horizon was where everything changed. The colony was home to 200,000 humans and another 100,000 from other species. The Void Swarm came in massive force, clearly intending to destroy it completely. The defending force was led by Commander himself, with 500 ancient warriors and 5,000 newly awakened modern humans. They weren't enough. Watched the battle through sensors from 3 systems away. The void creatures were endless. They just kept coming. Warriors were cutting through them by the hundreds, but for every one destroyed, 2 more appeared. The modern forces were fighting bravely, but they were being overwhelmed. Sir, we need to pull them out, his tactical officer said. They can't win this. Stared at the display. If they retreated, 200,000 civilians would die. But if they stayed, they'd lose some of their best warriors. The smart move was to save who they could and write off the colony. But had stopped making the smart move 6 months ago. All ships jump to New Horizon. Every warrior we have, ancient and modern, converges on that colony. Now. His staff stared at him. Sir, that leaves the other colonies exposed. The Void is committing everything to New Horizon. It's their main thrust. They're trying to break us psychologically by destroying a colony even with our best warriors defending it. We don't let them have it. We pile every human soldier we have into that battle. We show them that we don't run. We don't yield. We don't give them anything. The fleet jumped. 30,000 human warriors poured into the New Horizons system. It wasn't just a battle anymore. It was a statement. Every awakened human in the Outer Rim descended on that one colony. They came in ships and assault craft and personal drop pods. They came with ancient weapons and modern weapons, and some came with nothing but their bare hands and the fire in their eyes. The Void Swarm found itself facing not 500 warriors, but 30,000, and every single one of them was ready to die rather than let the colony fall. Watched in amazement as wave after wave of human forces arrived. He fought at the center of the colony's main city, his blade cutting through void creatures that towered over buildings. Around him, modern humans fought with a ferocity he'd rarely seen even in his ancient warriors. They'd learned. They'd adapted. They'd become what they were meant to be. Landed in the thick of the fighting. His blade blazed with light as he cut down a void creature that had broken through the defensive line. His command squad moved with him, covering his flanks. They'd trained together for months. They moved like one person. General's voice came through the comm. The void is retreating. It was true. The endless swarm was pulling back, not destroyed but driven off. 30,000 human warriors had held a colony against odds that should have been impossible. The other colonies reported similar results. With most of the Void's forces committed to New Horizon, the other battles had been smaller, more manageable. All 5 colonies had held, but knew the cost. 2,000 humans were dead. Another 5,000 were wounded. They'd won, but it had been close, too close. That night, as medics treated the wounded and engineers repaired damaged defenses, found sitting alone, looking up at the stars. The ancient warrior seemed older somehow, tired. "You did well," said without turning around. "Better than I expected. You saw the real battle, the one behind the tactics. Morale, will, the Void wanted to break us. You refused to be broken." "We lost people," said quietly. "We're at war. People die in wars, but they died for something. They died protecting others. There's honor in that." Finally looked at him. "You know what comes next, don't you?" Nodded. "We've been reacting to the Void's attacks, playing defense. We need to take the offensive." "The breach," said. "The dimensional rift where the Void enters our reality. It's located, according to our intelligence, deep in uncharted space. We can send a force through it, seal it from the other side, end the threat permanently." "What happens to the force that goes through?" "They don't come back. The environment on the other side is toxic to our reality. We can survive for a few days, maybe a week, long enough to seal the breach, but not long enough to return." Silence fell between them. Understood now why looked so tired. The ancient warrior already knew he was going to volunteer. He'd been planning this since he woke up. "How many soldiers would you need?" asked. 10,000, maybe fewer if they're good enough. Definitely fewer if they're ancient starborn, we know.